Welcome to the News Channel 8 PewterReport.com fantasy football forecast. Dan Lucas and Andrew Scavelli here. I can't believe we're at week 11. This is it, Andrew. We are getting to the nitty-gritty here.
We're rolling.
Most of the leagues are getting ready to wrap up their regular season and get ready for the playoffs. So we did this last week. We talked about not so much players you can pick up for the haul, but players you may want to look at if you need a win desperately this week. Move on to someone else the next week. But first, as always, here in Tampa Bay, Buccaneer land, never a dull day. What in the world do you do if you're looking at a Buccaneers player for fantasy football?
Well, in my opinion, I feel like at this point, especially like with the last couple weeks being so inconsistent, you kind of have to start to shy away from some of these Buccaneers potential fantasy options. Maybe aside from quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who always seems like a safe bet for 400 yards, but certainly at the running back position, they have three guys that could touch the ball depending on the game flow of that particular week. At wide receiver, at least in terms of fantasy, we really haven't in the past few weeks had a guy that's put up consistent production, and it seems to me, just keeping my eye on the injury report every week, that Mike Evans is kind of dealing with a knee injury too,
right.
So that might be holding him back a little bit. But until we see more production from those players going forward, at least for me, and I mean, obviously, we don't even know who the play caller is going to be. Is it going to be Dirk Cotter? Is it going to be Todd Mumpkin? I don't even know if that matters. But right now, the Bucs are just hard to trust for me in terms of fantasy.
And a chilly game this weekend up in the Meadowlands. Could be in
that Giants, exactly. And that Giants defense is also a little underrated, and I think they're going to cause a few fits, especially for this porous Buccaneers offensive line.
All right, very good. Okay, last week we started with the sneaky picks, so let's keep it going because I know you're out there. You need a win desperately. There's probably a move you can make to get a couple of points. So what do you got for us here?
Well, certainly let's start off with quarterback. My sneaky play at quarterback this week would have to be the Cowboys' Dak Prescott, who typically isn't on fantasy radars, but right now, especially with Amari Cooper coming in that offense, he's been a lot more consistent as of late. Over the last 3 weeks, he's thrown for at least 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this week they go against the Atlanta Falcons, who allow the third most points to fantasy quarterbacks. And last week the Falcons gave up, I believe, 3 touchdowns to Baker Mayfield, of the Browns. So I believe Dak Prescott should be good for 20 points this week.
Wide receiver, you have?
At wide receiver this week, I'm going to call him my deep pick of the week. So we're going really deep here. He's only owned in 3% of leagues, but I like the Rams wide receiver Josh Reynolds, who's going to be stepping in for Cooper Kupp, who unfortunately he's out for the year now with a torn ACL. And even as the number 3 wide receiver in that offense, I feel like there's a lot of potential for him there. Let's go back to week 8 when he stepped in for Kupp when Kupp was injured. During that week, he caught 3 balls for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I definitely think there is some potential for him.
Is this the week they play Kansas City?
They do play Kansas City.
Chiefs defense has gotten better, but it's still susceptible to the
I wouldn't
pass.
necessarily, I mean, I'm not counting on him for too much production this week, but I think he's definitely a guy I like to keep your eye on because the Rams love to use all 3 of their receivers, as evidenced in week 8. So.
All right, what other positions do you have?
Well, at running back, a guy I like certainly right now who's very hot, Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. It seems like historically he's always the guy that scores in bunches, and over the last 3 weeks he's scored 4 touchdowns. So this is a guy that definitely you want to strike while the iron's hot, and he is facing Indianapolis Colts defense, who this game definitely has the potential of a shootout, and I definitely see him getting more goal line opportunities. So he's definitely a safe flex option for me this week. Short
yardage for him. Also scored a touchdown in the Wildcat the other day against New England. So hey, he's going to get the ball a lot. Tight end.
And at tight end, obviously we know how hard it is to kind of find any production at that position. Take, for example, last week, guess how many tight ends scored double-digit fantasy points?
I saw a drop from Ben Watson, your guy. I can give you that.
Yep. No, he definitely didn't come through. But only 5 tight ends last week, which is just unbelievable how difficult that position is to really, target. But a guy that I like is the Broncos. They had a bye week the past week, but going back to week 9, Jeff Heuerman, He caught 10 passes for 83 yards and a touchdown against the Texans, and it looks as though he's going to be more involved in that offense now that Demaryius Thomas is out. So he's definitely going to get some more opportunities going forward. A guy that I think, you might as well take a flyer on him. And this week they go against the Chargers, and just even to keep up with that high-powered offensive attack on their side, they're going to have to throw the ball. So I like him this week.
And last but not least, the magical defense in Week 11 is...
So the defense, we're going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all saw them on Thursday Night Football. They got Cam Newton, sacked him 5 times. They put up a dominant performance. So, they're really starting to get hot. They put up 15 fantasy points in that game, which was really great. And this week they play Blake Bortles and the Jaguars offense, who gives up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing defenses. So I definitely think there's something there.
All right, Andrew, good stuff as always. Read him on pewterreport.com. Week 11, we're getting close to the playoffs, gang. Have a good one.